Hello and welcome back for a interim report. Pellsdale Mail. My aim sounded simple. Just play all of my piano music all the way through. I started off with quite a tilt, getting through 2/3 of my books in the first year and a bit. But things were getting slower and harder. It became physically harder.
Really exhausting because you
It has felt hard on my fingers. I've got a lot better at sight reading. On the bad side, it's sort of destroyed my love of the piano. What I realised was I hadn't actually played most of the piano music I had. So most of the time I was sight reading. And that meant pages and pages of relatively unknown text. It just slightly destroys the aesthetic fun. It's like struggling through a desert. And when I'd stumble upon a piece I knew, like a man stumbling upon an oasis in a desert, it would be such a relief. But the piece was always short, and the relief short-lived. But we are now in July, which means so far it's taken me 1 year and 4 months. And I've got left about a dozen books, but unfortunately they're about the hardest dozen books. Oh, look at this. Well-Tempered Clavier, Part 2.
I mean, the first book was hard.
What's not hard is knowing how to switch a microphone on, which unfortunately I haven't done here, so I'm going to have to explain this in voiceover. I knew about half the preludes in book 1, and maybe 1.5 fugues, but book 2 I knew nothing at all. And the preludes were so much harder than they are in book 1. The good news was the fugues seemed to be easier. And I found such a great way of playing them using my Yamaha keyboard. Just play one hand, you can use both hands to play it, record it. Now just add the right hand, and suddenly, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm actually playing a Bach fugue. I always think you just need more hands to be able to play Bach properly. You just thought in so many different musical lines at the same time. That's why his mastery of harmony was supreme, keeping so many separate strands together in a harmonic whole. There's those descriptions of him playing the organ with his feet running all over the place. I mean, Bach was just an incredible human being, but he would have been an even more incredible octopus. The one-hand approach was a coping mechanism for what was increasingly becoming a problem. I was finding this really, really hard. So, how to deal with it? Come up with more coping strategies. Firstly, I stopped just doing the sight reading. It actually happened one day when I thought, sod it, and picked up an old piece and played that. And then when I got to the end of it, I just went back to the beginning and played it again. And it was so strange to play the same piece twice. I realised a really obvious thing, which is just sight reading is not going to satisfy on its own. Part of the pleasure of music is playing things again, things you love, playing them better, re-exploring them. So now playing's not just sight reading, I've got time for old friends. Second strategy, don't just play one piece. I'd actually have 4, 5 pieces of music running at the same time that I was sight reading all the way through. The variation made it more interesting and easier to do. I also prepared myself better. If I was doing some Brahms symphonies, I'd listen to the Brahms symphonies beforehand. Get a bit more idea, made it more fun, made it more interactive. It made me realise what those people that are really, really talented, top sportsmen, top musicians, why they're so good at what they do. Because they enjoy the practice. They're happy, repetitively doing things for years. Things that wore me down in a few months. I think there's a Malcolm Gladwell book about it, Genius or something like that, but it's a very good read. Outliers, Alan, get your sources correct. But it is an excellent read and it really describes how what often we think of as geniuses, these people that come out from nowhere with this amazing ability. It actually comes from hours and hours and days and years of practice, but just practice that's natural to them because they've just enjoyed doing it the whole time.
Slightly excited because I've just been playing this.
It's the absolutely amazing end to Tristan and Isolde that the audience has spent 4.5 hours waiting for, and I've waited 3 months. So, I've done most of it on all of these 3 piles, and I've just got one little bookshelf left to do.
I feel like I've almost done it. and I won't have to.
And maybe how appropriate, I'll be spending my twilight on this project with the gods.
Nearly there.